All right, so look, Kamala Harris has now endorsed Joe Biden, but she's just a cog in the machine. And so I had to get this out to you because it's just sort of an update slash epiphany that I've had. For some reason, it really just kicked into my brain after Kamala Harris endorsed Joe Biden, um, that it's really Bernie Sanders versus the world right now. And what do I mean by that? So what I mean by that is basically that it's Bernie Sanders versus an entire machine. He is running against all of the mainstream media, which is owned by the Democratic Party and from the donor class of the Democratic Party, all the different large multinational corporations that fund, these networks. That's where they get their money from. So we're running against all those, which, by the way, I've now also had a double epiphany. That epiphany being more of a realization type of thing, is just how much power the mainstream media wields. The mainstream media wields literally all of the power, all right? All of the power. Because narratives are everything. And so while Bernie Sanders has to pay money for advertising, Joe Biden received over $100 million of free advertising from the mainstream media networks. So it's literally everything. The mainstream media is power because narratives are power. All of that stuff is all power. So basically, it's Bernie Sanders alone versus Joe Biden, who's backed by the DNC, the people in the DNC who are not elected by us, all right? The highest up in the establishment by the donor class of the Democratic Party. That donor class bankrolls the establishment politicians as well as the mainstream media. Okay, that's where they get their funding from. And then he's also, again, to reiterate, the Democratic establishment. That is a very powerful thing. So he's getting all this money. He's getting all the free advertising, which is virtually impossible to replicate for Bernie Sanders. And then he has all of these endorsements. Kamala Harris, Beto O'Rourke, Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, all these people, John Delaney, although he doesn't mean anything. But you get the point. And then he already has the backing of the Michigan governor and all these different establishment candidates who are already established. They're part of the Democratic Party as an establishment. They're part of it. They are the ones who are holding these senior positions and these seniority positions. And they have to, make sure that they're watching themselves. So all Bernie Sanders has, and I think this played big against him this time, all he really has is the squad. That's pretty much it. Those being, Ro Khanna, AOC, Ilhan Omar, and Rashida. That's pretty much it. When it comes to Democratic politicians, there are some here and there, sort of lower level state legislature Bernie supporters, but most of the governorships and these high-ranking members are all not for Bernie Sanders. Jim Clyburn, a big figure, a centrist Democrat, sellout, by the way. He takes $1 million from Big Pharma. But he is also, obviously supporting Joe Biden. And so it's really Bernie Sanders versus the world. And the other thing that I realized was we're not running against Joe Biden. We're not running against him. We're running up against an entire massive group of institutions is what we're running up against, okay? So we're running against mainstream media corporations. We're running against corporations in general. We're running against the corporate donor class. And then we're running against the Democratic establishment, which includes the DNC, and then the high-up politicians like a Kamala Harris. So she comes out, they all coalesce around a moderate because that's what their donors tell them to do, and that's what the establishment figures tell them to do. And so it's a hard battle to overcome when your opponent essentially owns the media, gets tons of free coverage from the media, and then, in addition to that, basically controls the narrative, has all of the money in the world, has all of the power and backing, and then you combine that with there being a solid amount of dumb people in the United States, a lot of voter suppression and rigging, and you get a virtually almost unwinnable fight. Almost unwinnable. We can still win this, but I just wanted to tell you about this triple epiphany that I've had, because it really is Bernie. Tupac's Me Against the World, that's Bernie right there. It's Bernie against the world, which is really us against the world, right? Because we're all part of the movement. But we've got a large fight ahead, and so you just need to understand what it is that we're up against, okay? We're not running against Joe Biden. We're running against the mainstream media that's propping him up, which has unlimited resources. So that's why Joe Biden didn't even campaign in the Super Tuesday states. The mainstream media keeps propping him up nonstop. And so we're not even running against him. We're running against the mainstream media, which is insane. So basically what you have going on here is a really tough battle, but you got to gear up. I thought I'd let you know about my triple epiphany here because I think it's a pretty important message to get out there.